Hey guys, Brian delivers you the goods here. Sorry that my hair is very curly. I've just had to delay my shower for a little bit, and I know I gotta get one pretty soon. So that's something I'm gonna be doing tonight. But I wanted to return to you for this album review because it's something I was excited to review. For The Devil Wears Prada Flowers, their new album that I got a chance to listen to for myself. See what I was going to think of the 14 tracks on this record for the long awaited studio album we've been waiting for since I believe it was announced when Where the Flowers Never Grow song came out, and the EP as well. So I'm going to discuss what I listened to for all 14 songs of this 42.5 minute album and let you know my thoughts on The Devil Wears Prada's new record, Flowers. So let's dive into this album review this afternoon. Now it starts with That Same Place, which is the intro track to Where the Flowers Never Grow, and it's a pretty nice intro with the violin work and all that. And I really did enjoy this when they made the music video for Where the Flowers Never Grow, and it combined very well with this song going into the next song, so it's a 5 out of 5. So next song is Where the Flowers Never Grow, the technically the title track. Um I think this was a really good one. I really enjoyed Jeremy's singing, and I enjoyed Mike Renika's screaming moments in this track. Did very well for the blending together, and they mixed this song very well, and it's a really upbeat track. Um, and did very well for the execution. So I really enjoyed the drumming. I enjoyed the breakdowns. I enjoyed everything about this track. Jeremy's singing was the highlight on this track, so it's a 5 out of 5. Everybody Knows is another great song that I enjoyed. It took a little time to get used to this track, but I do enjoy it for the execution and how it sounds, so it's another 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed Mike Renika's screaming moments in the background, and his screaming verses too are pretty solid. So Jeremy's singing is pretty strong in this track too. So 5 out of 5. So Low was another single for the record. The first four songs from tracks 2 to 5 are singles, but overall, So Low was probably my least favorite. It wasn't the worst track. It's still pretty good in its own way. It's just gonna bring the rating down a little for this record, so it's a 4.75 out of 5. I don't know, it's just how Jeremy was singing the chorus. It was alright, but it didn't sound bad. It's just, I had a few critiques with this track with how it was mixed and produced. So 4.75 out of 5 for You is a really nice track about a loss. And it overall is a solid track. It's another least favorite, but I do dig the song in its own way. Mike Renika's scream bridge and the bridge of the song is pretty strong, and overall, this track flowed alright, so it's a 4.75 out of 5. All Out is a great song for a regular song on the album, and the drumming in this is fantastic. Really enjoyed the drumming in this track, and just Mike Renika's screaming really goes all out in this track with the breakdowns, the verses, the chorus is pretty strong. So I really dig this. Jeremy does come in with his singing moments in the chorus, and it executes pretty well. 5 out of 5. Ritual was another single for the record, the first single for the record, and is still to this day my favorite song, along with another track that I enjoyed, which I'll get to that single that I'll talk about sometime in the review. But overall, Ritual did have good mixing in this, and I enjoyed Jeremy's singing, and Mike Renika's screaming moments are the highlight too in this track, and it flows very well with Jeremy's singing in the chorus. So it's another great track, 5 out of 5. The breakdowns are fantastic in this track. When You're Gone was another song for a regular track on the record, and another great song that I enjoyed. Definitely was worth the wait to listen to the extra 7 songs, but you get 6 extra tracks because 6 to 8 extra songs. But overall, I think When You're Gone really sounded symphonic and had a little bit of a dark tone to it, but did sound good for how it executed with Jeremy singing and Mike Renika screaming. So it's combined very well with their vocals. 5 out of 5. The Sky Behind the Rain is a 1 minute and 6 second track going into the next track, The Silence, and it's another pretty good one. I enjoyed the instrumentation in this one, and the mixing and production's pretty strong in this. So it flowed very well for 1 minute and 6 seconds, so 5 out of 5. The Silence is an interesting one that I really enjoyed. The production in it does rely on the electronics a bit, but it does work for the execution. So it's a 5 out of 5 for this one too. I really like this song. The flow of it, the natural beat to it sounds pretty good. It's very catchy. Something to really enjoy for the production and mixing. 5 out of 5. Eyes was one of my favorite songs on the record too, along with Ritual. I think this was a very strong track. For 4 minutes and 7 seconds, you're in for a banger. And I think the music video is pretty cool, where they have this devil chasing after them in this kind of maze, where they're wandering in the maze, and they're like puppets on a string, and then you see a person with eyes and a shadow and all that, like a shadow with eyes. So it's pretty cool. Music video was really well choreographed, and I enjoyed Mike Renika's screaming in this track, and Jeremy's singing is pretty strong in this. 5 out of 5. Cure Me is another strong track on this record. I'd give it a 5 out of 5 too. It starts off a little weird, but it does work for the natural flow of the execution, and the melody and all that sounds solid. So yeah, I do dig it. Wave was the last song on the EP, but it is a very strong track too. Wave and Where the Flowers Never Grow were 2 extra songs for that EP back in August, but they overall were solid tracks. I think this one was probably my least favorite, but still a very good one. And it executed very well for how it sounded. I mean, it's a really mellow track, and Jeremy's singing is alright in this, so 4.75 out of 5. My Paradise starts off the song alright, but then it picks up as you keep going, and it does sound enjoyable for the runtime of 3 minutes and 21 seconds. So it closes out this record pretty well. So 5 out of 5 for the last track. I enjoyed Jeremy singing, and Mike Renika screaming in the background sounds pretty strong, and it executes very well. 5 out of 5. Overall, production, mixing, and execution wise, I think The Devil Wears Prada's new record, Flowers, is a very strong release. Will be on my best albums of 2025. I was very excited to listen to this album, and I really enjoyed it for the execution of most of the tracks. And there were a few songs I had critiques about, like So Low and For You, also Wave as well. But they weren't the worst tracks. They were pretty solid and good in their own way. But they had a few execution flaws with how it was sounding and the melody and all that. But they weren't terrible. So they're highlights, but they're still least favorites. But everything else is very strong on this record. Definitely a great follow-up to Color Decay, because Color Decay was a more dark, depressive kind of record, and this shines a little light into what they're trying to go for with this record. Flowers it's a more lighter tone to the theme of it is like a more positive, upbeat kind of tone to it. There are a few songs that do have their depressive vibes, but it does work for how it executes. So if I were to give Devil Wears Prada Flowers a score, I'm feeling a 9 out of 10. Very strong release. Highly recommend you check this album out at midnight tonight on November 14th. And overall, 9 out of 10 for Devil Wears Prada's follow-up record to Color Decay, Flowers. I hope you enjoyed this long-awaited studio album review you've been waiting for me to review. And thank you guys for watching.